Okay, so here we are back again, and now this is the one of the important bits of the this sort of group of videos, and that now what we have is we're on the Linode and we've got our sort of Linode is running. So now the thing about it is that if we go on here, if we do power off, it says, note, powered down Linodes will still accrue charges. See the billing and payments documentation for more information. So guess what? If we just turn it off, we're still going to get charged. And you're going to get charged the same amount as usual. So, and remember that's about, I think we're paying at the moment about 10 cents an hour, which isn't too bad, but that's per hour, so it's going to add up over a while. And you see what's happened is it's the end of the day, and I want to turn this off, but you see if I delete it, so that's power off. Now if I go to delete, that will save me money. But now that says, warning, deleting your Linode will result in permanent data loss. So if I delete it, then all that work that I've just done, sitting there making all them changes, the minute I click on delete, it's all gone. So the hours of work is just down the drain. So now I've got to have a way where I can keep it, keep it, but also have the, how can I say, yeah, so I can keep the information, the changes I've made, and even have a backup copy of it. But here's the problem, if I store that backup on Linode, I'm going to have to pay for it. So surely there's a way of storing it without, well, you still pay for it even in some way, but just not at an expensive rate. That's the whole point. That's what you're trying to avoid. So what we're going to do is, so we have this, or first things first, make sure I'm logged out. So we've got to clean up and make sure that I'm out of everything. So this is all local. Right, so now if you just exit from there, so we're out of there, and then the last thing to make sure is to unmount the SSHFS, which helped us for so long. And so if we so the LS, there's nothing there, so it's been unmounted. So the local server has been unmounted, and we've exited from there. So now we're ready to do the next phase. So now the next thing we have to do is we need, we're going to need two volumes. So the first volume is we're going to have to back it up. So this is an 80 gig drive. So in order to do the backup, we're going to need at least an 80 gig volume. I'm just going to do it now. Just make it 90 gig just so it's big enough. So the region's obviously where we were, because you've got to make sure it's the same region. And then we're gonna, it says selected Linode. It's best to just make sure you can see it, because if you can't see it, then you're gonna have a problem. But you don't have to select it, but just make sure it's on that list so you know you've chosen the right region. So what we need is, so we just need 90 gigs. And so we're going to create the volume. I don't know what that service thing said, but it just popped up. So now we just wait for this volume to finish creating. And then now, once it's finished creating, we're going to do this is where we're going to do the money saving bit. And this is why, one of the reasons why Linode is pretty good. I'm sure there's other ones that have a decent console, but they give you a good rescue image as well. So what I'm going to do is go here, go to rescue, and then for the disk I'm going to attach the temp 90 gig, and so then we're going to reboot into rescue mode. So now we just got to wait for the rescue to start up, and usually it's pretty quick because it's just booting from a little ISO from sort of a little program called Phoenix, and so we just got to wait for that to finish, and it's usually pretty quick. But like I say, it does seem to change sometimes depending on the time of day. So if it's a time of day where it seems more busy, then sometimes the reboot can be slower, I've noticed. And then sometimes the reboot can be quicker at other times of day. So, but then it seems like the more expensive machines do sometimes seem to reboot quicker. Yeah, because actually this is quite a slow reboot. So now once it's finished, once it's running, go to launch Lish console, and then we're in to the console of the rescue. So now, just to be safe, I always like to put screen on just in case you get disconnected. So now I want to make a directory for the, well, we need two actually. So what these are for when we mount the disks. So we need to see what we have connected. Right, so we have SDA is the drive that we're backing up, and SDF is the one that we just created. So we need a file system for SDF. So I always get rid of the journal because it gets you just get a little bit of a performance increase with no journal because it's right into Flash after all. So we want SDF, and you know it's the right one because if you press return and it does this, that means there was no file system on there. So now if we mount it onto the HD, let's put it onto 2, and so then we change CD into there. So what we do now is, so the SDA is the one we want to sort of clone. So if we do, now one of the good things about this Phoenix is it's got DD rescue on it. So you do DD rescue, and instead of just give the name just so I know I'm doing it for YouTube. So what's going to do is going to do a DD rescue of the SDA block device onto a file with this name, and it's going to do it in HD2. And as you can see, the speeds, it's pretty fast. Sometimes it's slower. And so now it's going to be copying that 80 gig drive onto this volume that we just created. And the reason why you have to do it this way is simply more a time thing, because you could shrink it yourself and then shrink it and then copy what's left of it, but then you have to guess what size it is. But as you'll notice, there isn't, even though doing it this way takes longer, there is actually an advantage that you gain from doing it this way, and you'll see what that is. So I'll just skip this. I'll come back once it's finished. Right, so that image is finished copying. And so if you just check the space, so it's used up 80 gigs, so we've got 11 gigs available. So, but anyway, so if we do an ls of the image, so we can see this is it. So it's 80 gigs, it says 85, whatever. And so what we want to do next, see what some people might think to do next is to compress this, but believe me, you don't want to do that, because trying to compress this is going to take forever. So what we're going to do is actually to shrink it, but before we do that, we have to do a disk check of it. And you have to use the F to force it, because Oh yeah, it's not a device, it's just the name of the file. So it's going to do a check of the file, or the file system which is on that file that we've just done an image of. And you have to do this because if you don't, it won't, the shrink is going to refuse to shrink it. So it didn't find anything wrong, but you still have to do it anyway. So now we have to shrink this file system. We do that with resize 2fs, and the command uses -p for progress, and capital M shrinks it just to the minimum size, and then just the name of the file. So notice, remember the size of the file. It says there's 85 whatever gigs, you know, or non-binary gigs, or non-power of 2 gigs. So if we do the resize 2fs, it's going to go through this process and see what it does. And the interesting thing about this is that with Linode, sometimes this is fast and sometimes it's slow. So one thing for sure with Linode is, I think if you get their cheaper virtual machines, you get a variable performance. So I don't know if the more expensive ones, the performance is more guaranteed, but for sure, even though I'm using a dedicated CPU, the I/O performance can just be up and down sometimes. It just seems to vary a lot, but it's not too bad because, you know, it's still reasonably fast. But I've noticed that AWS seems to give you a more consistent I/O speed from when I remember using them than Linode. But one thing I'll say about Linode is that their network speed seems to be consistent though, whenever I've tried it. But yeah, this is definitely slower than usual. Oh yeah, another thing I forgot to mention is that the first time you do this, you find it slow, but interestingly enough, once you do it more times, the subsequent resizes are really fast. So I think it actually optimizes the file system or compacts it to make it faster the next time. And see, it's got pass4, because normally pass4s, if you do this anytime subsequently, and I might show you that, you know, if I do make any changes, this part is a lot quicker for the same 80 gig image, but this it seems like the very first time you do it, it is really slow, and so you have to just wait. Right, so as you saw, the size was 85 something bytes, so let's see how big it is now. Yeah, so it's 17. So it shrunk it from 85 down to 17 gigs. And that is approximately how, so it shows you how big the BigBlueButton is, really. And that does actually compress quite well. Well, I did make one mistake. Well, anyway, I forgot to do something with the swap file. But what we're going to do now, so we know that this file is 17.5 gigs big. So what we do now, notice that with the volumes, so we did 90 gigs. So what we then need is just create volume, and you can't start with a number. Just select the region, and then U. And so we know it's the right region. And so notice it's 20 gigs is $2 a month. So that's more like it. So remember the Linode we're running is 36, because it's 2 CPUs, it's $36 a month. Whereas this 20 gig image is $2 a month. So you actually end up, so if I ran that for a whole month, I'll be paying $36. If I store it for a month, it's $2. That's a lot cheaper. So let's create the volume. So it says it's going to be attached to, so you just got to wait for the volume to finish creating, because there's no point checking it until the create is finished. Right, so the 20 gig, we've created that, and so now we've got to check out the old list again. Don't know what that's all about. Looks like we've got some bugs in the that's the first time I've seen that, you know. Looks like Linode have got some bugs in their hardware. It must be a memory error. It's not able to read the okay. I wonder what that significance that holds, as long as it doesn't corrupt the volume. Alright, so SDH is what has been attached to it now. So if we make a file system on that, so SDH, so that's made that. So if we go into no, we have to mount it first. So we do that in HD1. So the amount of space we have here is, so we've got 20 gigs, and so then we just have to copy the file so we just use rsync just to, so we can get a progress on that. And so notice when I was creating the image, it was reading at like 500 megabytes a second. Now when I'm trying to copy from the bigger volume to the smaller, I'm only getting 120 megabytes a second, and this is kind of some of the inconsistent performance that you sometimes get from Linode. But the thing about it is that when it comes to the stability and the CPU performance, that doesn't seem to have any problems at all, because I don't have any problems with any Linodes that I've been running for like hours, and you know, I've been using it as part of doing like a live stream or something. Linode's been 100% stable. So it seems to me that if you want good network connection and a stable Linode for, you know, doing some like streaming or whatever, then yeah, it does the job completely. But if you want to use a Linode for copying between volumes, it seems as if that's one thing that, depending on the size of the volume and how lucky you are where your volume's placed, the speed can vary. So sometimes you can get slow speeds and sometimes you can get fast, and I don't know if it's related to the size of the volume. Right, so we're just copying that over. And I think sometimes you get this with Amazon as well. If you make a volume below a certain size, it's a lower performing one, because they know you're paying less for it. So they know that they're getting less money from you, so they give you less performance. So maybe that's what they do as well at Linode. But maybe it's somewhere in their, you know, their terms and conditions or whatever, that if you pay less, you get less performance. I don't know. Right, so that's copied over. So see, that's there. And because we've got that squashfs error, just in case there was some hardware bug or memory errors that might have caused a problem, it's best to just do a check of it again. So just let it run through. So as long as the image that we copied over, if E2FSCK, yeah, it says it's fine. So that job's done. So right, so we got the 3 gigs available. Use 17 gigs, and that's on the 20. So we've gone from storing it on a 9, but anyway, so this is finished. So we just close this. So what we've done is we've got Linode, which is $36 a month, we've taken the image of the disk, put it onto a volume which is 90 gigs, which is $9 a month, and then we've reduced the file system down to less than 20 gigs. So we've gone from storage of $9 a month to $2 a month. So at the moment, for this, I'm only paying $2 a month, and that's without compression. And the only reason I'm not compressing it is simply because I don't have time, because I should have finished this a while ago, and just need to get out and quickly do something. But the important thing is that at this moment, I'm paying 36 plus 9, so that's 46, so 45. So I'm paying $47 a month at this moment. But if we then, so if we power this off, so even if we end up powering this off, we're still paying $47 a month, because it still reserves the hardware resources and everything, and obviously they're saying that no one else could use it, so they still charge you for it. So even though it's offline, and the reason why I offline it first is because when you detach the volumes, it's a lot quicker. Because when it's online, the detach takes longer. So it's best to power it off, because then the detach just flies through immediately. And that's what you want. And also always keep on this this confirmation thing. So it slows you down in case you click on the wrong one. So that's detached. So now that they're both detached, so we go back to the Linode. So what do we do with our $36 a month? We delete it. So remember, we're paying $47. So when we delete this, now we're paying $11 a month. So the wallet is a lot happier now. So now, should we keep on paying $11 a month? And the answer is no. So now let's see. So even that stingy, we don't even want to pay the $9 to them. So then we delete that volume, and that's it. So all that work we've done, what's left of it is now this little 20 gig volume, where if we left it here, we'd be paying $2 a month, which is $24 a year. So now if you can't afford $24 a year, then I think you need to get a proper job. But the Linode isn't there burning our pocket out, but we have this image. So now, of course, you might think this image is no good, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue this to show you how to actually compress this and then get it out of here, so that we're not even paying $2 a month. So I'm going to switch to that later, once I've got the time to do it, and so I'm going to get back to that and then get that video sorted as well. Okay, thanks for watching, and see you in the, well, no, I shouldn't say see you, because this video is going to continue when I finish this part off, and then next video is going to be how to restore it. Okay, so this is just a continuation of the video. So what I'm going to be doing now is showing you how to compress the image that I put in this storage. And what I find is usually the best thing to do is to get a Linode with at least a decent amount of power, because what that does is it just helps to speed things up. And so I mean, I could choose any one of these, but I just usually stick with Ubuntu because it's the same one that was used to to create the image in the first place. I mean, there's no specific reason to. So the important thing, of course, is make sure that the region is the same as where the image is. So I put it in the sort of London EU West area. And so if you choose the 4 CPU, so we'll just spend the 10 cents, just so we can get it compressed as quick as we can. Because of course what we're doing is a classic case of just compress and go really. And of course the reason why you have to you have to do it this way is so that it's done, the compression is done locally, and then you, because that's the other thing to remember, is that you get charged for bandwidth, but you get charged for bandwidth, but the CPU, you've already paid for, you effectively pay for 100% CPU. So what you're effectively doing here is using the CPU that you've already paid for, CPU power, to reduce your bandwidth, the amount of bandwidth you use. So I'm going to create that. I don't have to worry about anything like DNS like before, because I'm just going to be connecting to it with this IP address. So just get that connection ready. Okay, so once that's up, then we'll just, what you have to do then is just attach the volume to it. Like I say, still don't know if they're ever going to fix this. Whether they will do a percentage inside the, maybe they will, maybe they won't, I don't know. But their version is up to 1.125, because it was at, a while ago it was at 0. I think it was a 0.9 something. Right, so that's up. So now what we do is just got to attach this volume to it. And the fact it shows up means we put it into the right region. And even though it's green and it says it's attached, you have to wait for this percentage indicator to appear. And it gets to 14, or 20 this time. Usually it's 14. So you have to wait for this to appear telling you it's attached, and then we can go and connect to it. And then deal with this volume. So always like to run the screen for just in case I lose the connection while it's compressing. So if we just check the volumes, right, so we can see it's SDC. So if we just make a directory and then mount it, right, so that's the image you're going to compress. Now the main thing to remember is that this image is because of how big it is, we won't be able to fit it into the we won't be able to actually fit it. So we won't be able to fit it inside that volume. So what we have to actually do is compress it outside. And what I'm going to do is just compress it and then just send it with the same machine just to save time. Because you could get rid of this one and then do a less powerful machine to transfer it just to save a few cents, but it's hardly worth it, because the time it takes is going to be worth more than a few cents of your time, and that's the thing. So the only reason I chose MC is just because it's easier to see where the files are going. So this is inside the volume, and then we just want to copy it outside so it goes onto the normal disk. So this is just copying it from the volume to the internal disk of the internal disk of the virtual machine. So as you can see, the volume's only got 3675 megabytes free, whereas the internal volume here has got 155 gigs free. We're just going to wait for that to copy. Of course, I'll speed this, or I'll cut this part anyway. Okay, so that image is copied across. So now we just got to go to another screen. So if we do a list, you can see the files in the home directory now. So now what we've got to do is compress it, and of course we have to make sure to use XZ, because XZ is it's a stream based LZMA compressor. So the LZMA gives you decent compression, which is dictionary based, but you can also stream decompress it, which is the important thing. So I'm going to go for, make sure to use all the cores, all 4 of them anyway, and then use the highest compression, because we've got 8 gigs of memory, so you might as well just go for it. and then just the name of the file. So as you can see, it's going to take a little bit of time. Yeah, see, 36 minutes. So that's the reason why I chose a quad-core machine, because the anything less, and it takes a long time to compress. And actually, the reason why the image is so big is because of the swap file. So I was just thinking I might end up optimizing this a bit by having it so that the swap file is activated by a script at boot time, because then the swap file doesn't have to be then saved in the image, and that makes the image smaller. But I'll see. So anyway, once this 47 minutes has gone by and it's finished compressing, then I'll be back. Okay, so that's finished compressing, and so now if we have a look at the size. Right, so as you can see, the previous size was 17 gigabytes, and so that little bit of XZ compression has squashed it down to 4.8 gigabytes. So that obviously is definitely a saving in terms of bandwidth, and also it means that it makes it easier to store it on another server. So that's the next part we have to do now, is you've got to transfer it over to a server. And it's the two ways I save images for when I'm bringing them over from the virtual machine on Linode, is either I copy it to a local machine at home, or I've got my server on the internet that I use for my website, etc. So in order to use that server, well, the reason why I use that internet server is just because it's quicker. And so what I'm just going to do, so I'm just going to go over there. Alright, so now I'm on my server, which is on the internet, and it's usually best to do this. The good thing about doing it this way is that you should have a quick connection, unless you're on one of these connections which is throttled. And of course, the other thing is, I wouldn't bother with doing this if you're on shared hosting, because A, you won't have much space, and B, the connection speed will be throttled as well. So I'm just going to make some way to put the right, so now when it comes to copying it over, there's multiple options. Sometimes I use wget, but that's only if I've actually configured a web server. But the thing about this current setup here is that I don't think there is a web server. Alright, so there's no, let's check it. Yes, there's only SSH running. So it's easy, because there's only SSH running, what's easier to do is just use netcat. So what I'm going to do is just use a netcat command, and then always try and run PV as well. Yeah, so because this is a fresh image, PV is normally not installed, even though it is on the rescue image, which is supposed to make sense. Alright, so the way I do it is you run PV and the name of the image file compressed, and then you pipe it to netcat, and then just use a 2-second timeout, and then it's -L, and then always use this number, and then on the other end, so this is set. And there's a reason why I'm doing it this way, to set it to listen, because there isn't a firewall on here, so I can receive on any port. Whereas on my server here, it has a firewall, so the ports, most ports are closed. So what I have to do is actually connect out from here to the server. So sorry, to the Linode, or the Linode machine. So the way I do that is just use netcat again, and this has got an older version of netcat, so I have to use a different syntax. And then I have to get the IP address off here. Right, so that's the IP. So what I'm going to do is to connect to this IP 1337, and then the data that's transferred, I'm going to pipe it to well actually we're just sending it straight to a file. So since it's the same file, all we're doing is just getting this file name, putting it there. So because this side is doing the outward connection, you have to run the listener first. So whichever side has the -L, which is listen, you must always run that side first, regardless of which side it is. Because sometimes you can push to the listener. In this case, I'm pulling from the listener, but I always have to run the listener first. So that's listening. And so then I'm connecting to it, and it's pulling the file off. And the reason why I ran PV is so that I can know what the progress is. As you can see, it's pretty fast. So it's good if you've got a VPS at the minimum that has a decent connection, which isn't like throttled too badly. Then you should actually be able to copy it off at quite a reasonable speed. Sometimes the speed can be quite slow, especially if you're on a home system, but that was pretty quick. Oh, I think I ran out of space. Yeah, ran out of space. Alright, I just got to clean this up and then I'll be back. Okay, so I cleared up the space. So now, if I just put that command in again, and so then go to the Linode, and so we set it to listen again. Right, so then we just check, and seems to be coming over pretty quick. So this is why it is good to have a decent connection on your server. And I would say that if you're going to be doing anything like this, you're going to want to have at least one server which is permanently on the internet, and have it doing your DNS and your website and things like that. Because you can't really be like a serious internet person and not have your own server. But of course, if you're desperate, then yeah, you can just use your home internet connection to pull the image down. But you have to realize though that usually home connections, the upload is throttled. So and this is one reason for where the compression can help you, because of course a throttled upload, it'll take a while to upload an image which was 20 gigs. But if it's only sort of 17 gigs, but if it's only 4.8 gigs, then that's going to take, quite a bit less than half the time to upload. So there we have the image, and the important thing to make sure also is that you do a test of the image to make sure that it's a good one. And the way to do that, you just use xz-tv, and what it does is just do a test extraction, and you don't need any space to do it. All it does is just runs through the image itself, and it just extracts it to nowhere. And so as you see, it says it's going to take about 6 minutes. So what I'll do is I'll wait for this to finish. And it's definitely worth doing this, because the last thing you want is to delete the Linode and then you find out that the image you got is corrupt. And of course you're not going to be too happy, because all that work is down the drain. And so that's why it's at least worth doing this test of the received file to make sure it's okay before you get rid of the virtual machine. Okay, so just about to finish, ready to finish, and as you can see, the size extracted is about what we'd expect, but of course it's in megabytes, whereas the size that we sort of first created it from was just in bytes, so it's about the same size. So because that can extract successfully by the XZ, then we know that the image we've copied over is good, and so then we're ready to bail out on this particular one. So we can just get out of this connection here, just out of that. Yeah, for some reason it does that sometimes, I'm not sure why. So we're out of there, and then this. So basically we're at a stage where we're ready to actually get rid of everything. So the easiest thing that I find to do is, since we have the volume connected, best bet is so the Linode, just shut. So you just power it off. This is just to avoid the message, because if you try and detach the volume with it still on, you get some red writing where it's saying, it's telling you that it's not a good idea. So I find that when you actually power the Linode off, then when the volume detached, A, you don't get the red writing, and B, okay, so now the Linode's offline. And so what we do is, if we go into volumes, and then we just detach the volume, and so you just have to put the name of it in, because I usually like to leave this enabled so that at least it slows me down when it comes to deleting or detaching storage. As you can see, it instantly detached, because when the Linode is actually powered on, even though it's not mounted, it does take a bit longer to detach, but when it's powered off, it detaches really quickly. So now, to save our cache, we just delete this Linode. Let's get rid of the character at the end. Now we delete that. And that's it. So no more spending on that Linode. So remember, that one was $86 a month, and we didn't have to spend $86, but we got some use out of it. And so then this, obviously 20 gigs is $2 a month, but this is the thing, if you want to be super stingy, even $2 a month you don't want to give them, you just want to give them like, 10 cents or something. So then we delete the storage, and that's it. So that's it. So we're clean now. So I'm back to $0.00. Of course, because all this stuff came from America, we always have to talk in dollars now rather than pounds and pence. Right, so that's done for now. And so now, if we ever want to bring things back, the important thing is that at this moment in time, if we don't have a use for the virtual machine, we're not actually paying anything for it. And so at this moment in time, the account isn't taking anything out of our bank because we're not using it. And this is how it should be. So that's the end of that for now. And so what we're going to do in the next video, of course, is to show how to restore it. Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to make it back for when I put that video up.